Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙨. Today is a special transmission as we cover an unfolding event for the first time in the whole world. We are going to see a press conference by citizens of Hong Kong where they are going to share their plans of how they intend to fight the CCP, especially its occupation of Hong Kong. So a lot of stuff has happened over the last 2 years, and we have been seeing some protests, but they've been mostly muted in Hong Kong. But the overseas citizens of Hong Kong, who have spread far and wide, they've all come together to um, put together this press conference. There are many faces here that you are familiar with. For instance, Elmer Yuen is one of the prime movers of this movement, and you will also get to hear Sasha Gong, who is actually there, who will be covering this event. We're going to try and see if we can bring some of the big speakers for this event onto our channel. So we are going to be now going live and joining the press conference that is about to begin. So let's go ahead and do that. And if they haven't started yet, we can have some backdrop and some history about what has been happening. So as you can see here, we are waiting for the press conference to start. It's a Google Meet link, and this is something that we will be able to give you for those of you who want to directly go. But if you stay through our channel, you'll be able to see and talk to some of the speakers at this press conference. So we're going to keep a close eye on that window to see when it opens up and the event actually itself starts. It is supposed to have started a minute ago, but these things run a little bit forward and backwards. You all know how that is. The event is taking place in Toronto. Toronto, for those of you who don't know, is about 60 miles north of the Niagara Falls. And Niagara Falls forms a boundary between the countries of Canada and United States. One side is United States, the other side of the falls is Canada. So you can cross over from United States into Canada, drive up north, and you will reach Toronto. Toronto is arguably the biggest city, if not one of the biggest cities of Canada. And it's a very cosmopolitan city. It has a lot of Indian diaspora, as well as Chinese diaspora and people from Hong Kong. So that's why the organizers felt it important to do this press conference from Toronto. But as you will see, there are participants from all over the world who are watching this program, regardless of which time zone they are in. And you will see that I'm just going to put the declaration that they have adopted, and they will be signing to this one in just a moment. And if we could just make it a little bit bigger, please. We are going to try and see if we can make the font a little bit bigger so that you can have a clearer view if you are watching from your smartphones. But essentially what it says is that the press conference that is starting today is sort of like a kickstart program, that they are going to have a Parliament of Hong Kong, but it will not be inside Hong Kong, but it will be outside. It's sort of like, forming a government in exile, if you will. The first step that happens is that you have to have some sort of a body that says that it represents Hong Kong and its people. So the best way to do that is to have the members of this Hong Kong Parliament be elected in a democratic fashion. So I will let you read this thing so that it take a couple of minutes to read this while we are waiting for. Let me read this. Hong Kong Parliament Electoral Organizing Committee formation. The Hong Kong Parliament Electoral Organizing Committee, the committee, is funded by a group of Hong Kong citizens, including but not limited to former elected legislators, prominent journalists, scholars, businessmen, and professionals. The committee is dedicated to establish by universal suffrage, which means elections, a political body the Hong Kong Parliament, also called HKP, which represents, solidifies, and revives Hong Kong people's right of self-determination. The committee was officially formed in July 2022 in Toronto, Canada. It is the committee's belief that only a genuine democratic election could literally voice for the people of Hong Kong, commonly known as the Hong Kongers. Can you scroll down, please? Under Beijing's tyrannical interference, freedom and democracy in Hong Kong have rapidly ended. Other than breaching the premise of universal suffrage, Beijing has further abrogated Hong Kongers' right to elect their own representatives. And here is a little bit of a history of what played out in the last 3 years. In 2019, 71.23% of voters participated in the district council election. 86% of the directly elected representatives come from the pro-democracy parties. In June 2020, the Chinese government created the draconian National Security Law. Directed by the Chinese Communist Party, the Hong Kong government disqualified dozens of democratically elected legislators. Furthermore, Beijing has altered the election legislation, resulting in disenfranchising the rights of the majority of Hong Kongers. In the premises, the newly elected pro-democracy councillors were under threats of arrest and imprisonment. In the 2021 elections, less than one-third of the Hong Kongers participated, mainly because there were no pro-democracy candidates. So you get the idea, guys. So it's a 2-page document, and we will have a link to this once it comes up. They're starting a new website, and they will have all this information on that website. We will give you a link to that in the description section. So this is where we stand right now, and we are waiting for the press conference to start. Has it started? Can we take a quick look at that?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board, on-site and online. This is Victor Ho, Chairperson of Hong Kong Parliament Electoral Organizing Committee. First of all, on behalf of our committee members, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for your coming to our press conference and support for Hong Kong in helping us fight for the freedom and democracy that all people deserve. Yet, the situation in Hong Kong is still worsening day by day. And that's the reason why we are here. We yearn for the day to return to where we will forever call home and reunite with all the brave souls who have fought alongside us for Hong Kong's emancipation. That's the reason why the Hong Kong Parliament Electoral Organizing Committee, we are dedicated to establish a political body by way of universal suffrage and the Hong Kong Parliament that represents, solidifies and empowers Hong Kongers. To establish Hong Kong Parliament and let Hong Kongers decide our own futures is surely not the end. However, it could be the beginning of the end. I want to keep my remarks short and allocate more time for questions, so I am going to end soon. And I want to quote a political prisoner, Sam Jung, to conclude my remarks. Sam is the father of a newborn baby and is now in jail and facing a maximum lifelong prison sentence simply because he participated in a primary election in Hong Kong. He said, "Let Hong Kong's beliefs become your faith. 以香港作為信仰." This is the exact wordings. Hong Kong was a place where all kinds of ideologies exist. We have progressive and conservative. I was labeled as a liberal, whatever, but have friends who are like our friends in Toronto, in Hong Kong, in Vancouver. At the end of the day, we may differ in the values that we commit ourselves to, but a fundamental belief that exists in all and all ideology without fear. For this, we shall fight to the end. 咁我以下咧就有一個即係向國際傳媒講香港議會嘅重點。Sovereignty and self-determination. Hong Kong Parliament Electoral Organizing Committee formation. The Hong Kong Parliament Electoral Organizing Committee is founded by a group of Hong Kong citizens, including but not limited to former elected legislators, prominent journalists, scholars, businessmen, and professionals. The committee is dedicated to establish by universal suffrage a political body, the Hong Kong Parliament, which represents, solidifies, and revives Hong Kong people's rights of self-determination. The committee was officially formed in July 2022 in Toronto, Canada. It is the committee's belief that only a genuine democratic election could literally voice for the people of Hong Kong, commonly known as the Hong Kongers. Under Beijing's tyrannical interference, freedom and democracy in Hong Kong have rapidly eroded. Other than breaching the promise of universal suffrage, Beijing has further abrogated Hong Kongers' right to elect their own representatives. In 2019, more than 71% of voters participated in the district council election. 86 of the directly elected representatives came from the pro-democracy parties. In June 2020, the Chinese government enacted the draconian national security law. Directed by the Chinese Communist Party, the Hong Kong government disqualified dozens of democratically elected legislators. Furthermore, Beijing altered the election legislation, resulting in disenfranchising the rights of the majority of Hong Kongers. In the premises, the newly elected pro-democracy councillors were under threat of arrest and imprisonment. In the 2021 election, less than one third of eligible voters participated, mainly because they were no pro-democracy candidates. The committee believes in popular sovereignty. Hong Kongers should, as of right, decide the Hong Kong's future. To exercise this principle, Hong Kongers must elect their representative by free, fair, and safe elections, which meet the international standard. The duties of the committee are as follows. 1. Set rules and regulations for the Hong Kong Parliament election. Second, design voting and verification systems which ensure security, privacy, and fairness. Third, encourage Hong Kongers all over the world to participate. Fourth, seek support from international allies. Fifth, define the mechanisms of nomination, campaign, voting, voting counting and independent observation. The 11 member of parliament will obtain the mandate from Hong Kongers. The election is aimed to be held in late 2023. The committee is currently working with different experts and Hong Kongers to explore a feasible and secure election plan. The following is the Chinese version. 主權在民，實現人民自決選舉議會，港人乃香港話事人。香港議會選舉籌備委員會正式成立。一群海外的香港人眼見香港已淪陷於中共全面管治，真正人民聲音被消失，香港人失去自由選出代議士嘅權利，真實民意已遭扼殺。現在籌備香港議會 Hong Kong Parliament 選舉，以實現主權在民原則，真正實踐普世價值，通過一人一票方式直接選出民意代表，實踐人民自決權利，以延續香港人自主管治。
So as you can see, the chairman of this committee, Victor Ho, is reading the resolution in Cantonese now. And the idea is to have a democratically elected parliament that might not be based in Hong Kong, but it will be outside. The place is yet to be chosen, but there are some finalists. We can talk about all that in the Q&A session. We will be asking the panelists a few questions. And this is a pan-world event, and I don't know how many of you picked up. You can see Elmer Yuen sitting on the podium. He's one of the key players in this whole thing. He has worked tirelessly to try and put together overseas Hong Kongers who are spread all over the world to unite for a cause to get democracy back in Hong Kong. So we will be rejoining this press conference shortly. We just wanted to give you an update. Can I request every one of you to please like this video? You're going to see a lot of information about what is happening in China. This press conference is for the most part in English, and you will be able to hear the real situation in China as we speak. Now let's go back to the press conference, please.
香港人關心議題發聲，亦都致力爭取屬於香港人嘅應有權益。全球各地嘅香港人可以參與香港議會選舉嘅投票，團結全球香港人，以及為香港充權，直至喺各地間宣示香港人嘅身份認同。第一屆香港議會產生之後，將由民選議員決定未來嘅香港政體事宜。籌委會目標喺明年2023年年底正式舉行香港議會選舉。籌委會密鑼緊鼓地同各地港人合作，共同探索一套理想、可行、安全嘅選舉方案。籌委會由散居各地支持光復香港、時代革命嘅香港人組成。After that, we will now start our Q&A session. Before we start the Q&A session, I would like to invite our initiator of Hong Kong Parliament, Mr. Elmer Yuen, to say important remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our press conference. We thought about this idea not too long ago, less than 1 year ago, when I saw the Tiananmen dissidents in the States and over the world were so disorganized. After 30 years, they've done nothing, right? Disorganized. And that since they don't have a representing body, nobody knows how to help them. So recently we saw the Uyghurs were very successful and in organizing global international protest against the communist government. So we need to learn, and especially Falun Gong, very well organized. They are the biggest media in the world right now, in different languages, dialects, and in different parts of the world. We Hong Kong people, if we want to recover Hong Kong, we need to get organized. We cannot every day just individuals, elites going out and trying to get support from different governments. We need an organization, which is the Hong Kong Parliament, to organize and then ask people and tell people how to help us. Right now, we have no representative. We have all kinds of different opinion, and Hong Kong Parliament is the platform, is where we can argue, we can debate, and finally vote for resolutions and bills representing the Hong Kong people's will. So this is the reason for this formation, and I'm very happy that the Toronto Hong Kongers and also from different parts of the world all participated in this organizing committee. From Australia, from Honolulu, from US West Coast, from Vancouver, Toronto, US East Coast, and from London. So we have a committee member, including from all over the world, more than 10 of them, and we are going to add more as we go because we have different committees is responsible for different areas. So we would welcome Hong Kongers to join our organizing committee, and because we have many committees, we need people, and so I'm very glad that Victor is our chairman, and he's spending a lot of time and under huge sacrifice. Anybody who joined the board have some kind of risk. As you know, communists will threaten anybody's life if you don't agree with them. That's the way they are. So I thank you again for joining. And
好，講幾句。
對唔住嗱，各位歡迎今日嚟參加。我哋網上有好多人參加，同埋而家喺現場。
That was the conference that's ongoing, and you just heard Elmer Yuen, and we will be rejoining for the question and answer session. And we have to remember that the dialect spoken in Hong Kong region is called Cantonese, and that is significantly different from the Chinese language that is used officially by the CCP. By the way, there are many languages. The CCP in its existence for the last 70 odd years has done a lot of work to try and force everyone to learn one language, whereas Hong Kong has been more or less sticking to Cantonese. That's what you heard Richard Ho speak when he translated the resolution. Now we are rejoining the press conference.
真係歷史事件。咁所以咧，我就覺得咧，我哋香港人唔同意見，好多唔同意見、唔同思維，但係我哋需要一個平台，合法嘅平台，等佢哋大家喺度討論又好，辯論又好，最後投票有一致嘅行動嚟對付全世界，嚟對付自己應該點樣，自己用咩政體又好，用咩方式又好，由佢哋決定，就唔係由幾個離開咗香港，好似我哋咁樣，我哋講個個唔同嘅，肯定有好多人唔同我哋意見嘅，所以咧我哋就要成立呢個嘢，等大家可以有一個平台將來唔係一屆落去咧，就可以提出要求代表香港人而家實在冇人代表香港人，咁咧就大家都話佢係有議席喺大台呢個嗰度，唔代表香港人，完全唔代表香港人。香港人一定要香港人，包括海外嘅香港人選出嚟嘅代表，至係代表香港人。呢個就係我哋今次搞嘅主要目的。多謝。
好 ，Thank you, Mr. Yuen. We will now start our Q&A session. We will have all on-site media raising their questions first, and then online participants will follow. After that, we will have another round of questions from on-site media and then online participants for your follow-up questions. 2 questions for each journalist. When it is in your turn, you may use English or Cantonese as you wish. 我哋現在開始現場實體招待會嘅新聞界朋友發問嘅時間。好，請講。
你好， testing。你好，新時代電視記者譚文聰，我想問咧，你哋今次香港議會其實都比較大規模啦。咁我想問你哋嘅資金來源係喺邊度？即係後邊其實有冇啲話係有啲邊啲人 support， 可能係政府或者係 NGO 或者係你哋本人某幾位？我哋想搞清楚嗰個即係背後嗰個資金鏈或者資金來源係點？呢個第一個 question。第二個 question 係咁而家你哋喺加拿大點？澳洲都有噶嘛？咁點解會揀喺加拿大做搞？咁而家你哋喺加拿大嗰度，你哋有冇註冊係一個咩嘅團體？係一個政治團體啊、NGO 啊，定係點樣？咁同埋即係而家你哋嘅進度嘅話，你哋同加拿大政府嗰邊其實話有冇啲乜嘢嘅關係，或者有冇同佢哋即係講過係呢啲咁嘅嘢？唔好意思，我真係好想問埋第三條 question， 就係咧你第一，你哋同英國上年謝文傑嗰邊嘅佢哋都講過嗰個影子政府啊，咁你哋之間有冇關係，有冇聯繫啦？同埋最緊要就係你哋認為今次呢個即係如果真係第時你哋成立咗一個選舉出嚟啦，其實投票嘅香港人會唔會犯呢個港區國安法咧？咁如果係你哋認為係會嘅話，咁其實你哋點樣保障佢哋即係可能第時避免響啲可能係響香港或者其他地區國家嗰度被捕嘅風險咧？唔該，
第一題你答。
哇，多謝。我哋咧就個資金來源咧就係由個人少過3個人就自己捐出嚟嘅。咁佢哋就唔想攞個名出嚟，因為咧你知道啦，呢件嘢如果攞出嚟咧，共產黨梗係針對佢哋嘅，追殺佢哋。梗係個人冇做咩眾籌啊，嗰啲公開嘅籌款冇同埋咧佢哋係個人嚟嘅，唔屬於任何組織。咁呢個係第一個問題。我哋開始即係淨係選舉啦，我哋估計差唔多需要100萬加紙度啦。咁就人哋即係所謂 underwrite， 即係保證咗呢筆錢，墊資冇所謂即係一樣好嘢嚟啲中文。所以咧就基本上呢個第一個問題就將來點樣，我哋有一個 finance committee， 佢哋會決定點樣做，因為將來可能宣傳需要好多錢，而家唔知道，就等佢哋決定。但係嗰個起碼個起動金咧就係存在嘅。第二個問題係乜嘢？
第二個問題
我啲老人家
唔係我答啊。第二個問題我答。我哋呢個組織點解會揀到加拿大作為一個辦事處？好簡單，加拿大係香港人移民嘅重要城市。除咗多倫多就到溫哥華，再有亞省 Calgary。咁阿袁弓夷先生咧嚟過多倫多好多次，佢唔係加拿大人嚟㗎但係佢對於我哋香港人喺呢度生活咧好關心，就覺得加拿大嘅多倫多呢個大都會嘅潛質好優厚，人又多，錢又多。因為你加拿大嘅多倫多就係加拿大嘅經濟首都嚟㗎嘛，政治首都喺渥太華。佢更啱聽啦，錢多，所以喺呢度。第二，呢度肯落手落腳，亦都能夠組織到，例如今日呢場國際記者會嘅人數夠多，咁所以我哋就選到呢度，就唔係歧視其他香港人聚居嘅城市，絕對冇咁意思。將來唔排除再進一步發展我哋香港議會嘅即係組織工作，喺其他唔同嘅香港人聚居嘅城市，例如倫敦、英國倫敦，例如澳洲嘅 Sydney， 都唔排除會喺嗰度有其他相關嘅辦事處。第二條問題牽涉到我哋同加拿大政府有咩關係啊？第一，我哋係一個非政府嘅團體，我哋同任何政府冇關係，我哋只係為將來嘅香港政府去鋪路，將來係光復香港之後嘅政府，唔係現在政府。我哋係同意光復香港，係支持時代革命。我哋係要爭取。
Viewers, I don't know how many of you can see in your screens. You will see Richard Ho, and to his left, you can see Elmer Yuen, a frequent specialist that comes on our channel. He is really the person who is pulling together all these things. He has been tirelessly traveling the breadth and width of the world, despite excuse me, the COVID situation. He's 72 years young, and you wouldn't look at him and think that he is that old, but he has an incredible amount of energy and enthusiasm. He has been crisscrossing the world over to try and make this an organized effort so that that legitimacy is there, that it doesn't matter where a Hong Konger is settled today. The message is coming loud and clear that they all wish for democracy in Hong Kong. So this is the beginnings you are seeing, and as they announced, they are going to have a parliament seated in 2023, and then you will start seeing, just like the way you have a government of Tibet in exile in Dharamshala, you will have a Hong Kong parliament and the government of Hong Kong in a staged manner in exile in some other country, and then you will start seeing pressure build up on the CCP to relinquish its hold, vice-like grip on Hong Kong. So we have to wait and see. This is what usually things will happen over the years. We know that the Tibetan government in exile has been around for 40-50 years. And people might say, what is the guarantee that the Hong Kong parliament is going to succeed where the others are still trying? Well, you have to try, first of all. Like Elmer says, you need to have an organized body that speaks for the Hong Konger, no matter where that Hong Konger is settled. Also, by having a democratically elected body of members with everybody having the right to vote, and this means everybody, and those things they have worked out the details. I cannot tell you what exactly the details are, and therefore it truly represents the will and voice of the Hong Kong people. So we're having a lot of questions being asked in Cantonese. So I thought instead of letting you listen to that, I will give you a quick wrap up on this. And we are going to try, and once the press conference finishes, we're going to have Sasha Gong, who's covering it live, join us, and she will give us a summary, as well as we will try and see if we can get Richard and Elmer to talk to us for a few minutes on their hopes and aspirations. This is a truly groundbreaking event. It hasn't happened. Something like this hasn't happened in years, and we feel fortunate that we are in a position to be able to bring this to you. And the idea is to spread this news and to make sure that the CCP, the Communist Party of China, understands that of all the flawed political systems, democracy is the least flawed, and that's the one that gives people its voice. So we will keep putting an ear to the ground on what is happening on the press conference. The idea of a democratically run Hong Kong parliament. Now, there are several things that have to happen. For instance, many countries have to recognize this. And once that happens, believe me, things start having a lot of momentum, and then the pressure will start building. I am not sure how long it's going to take, but it is my guess that once the people who are observing the election process say that, yes, this body of elected parliamentarians of Hong Kong Parliament are a legal body, they have gone through the normal process of allowing everybody to cast their vote. It is done in a free, fair, and transparent manner. And all those things will happen, and we will keep you posted. But this is not something like a short race. This is a marathon. But the fact that the people of Hong Kong who have been subdued, suppressed, have decided that they are going to make themselves heard is a welcome sign. And as I said, there are people following that press conference from all over the world. You don't get to see all the people here because there were a few of us who were allowed more access, so we can actually get the video stream. Many are only getting audio stream. This is just a way of managing the bandwidth. So this is where things stand. Let's go back to the... There you go. You got a better screen now.
因為香港而家始終都實行緊港區國安法，咁所以其實實在啲嘅問題就係，如果日後個選舉出咗嚟，咁身在海外嘅香港人去投一票， 甚至係即係仍然身在香港嘅香港人投一票。咁所以就係你哋認唔認為其實有份參與投票嘅香港人，其實會有機會觸犯喺香港落實緊嘅港區國安法？如果認同嘅話，咁其實點樣保障參與呢個未來呢個選舉嘅投票嘅香港人，佢哋可能喺海外嘅，佢哋可能第時返香港探親係唔會被捕，或者係而家仲喺香港嘅香港人，佢哋係喺香港嘅時候係唔會被捕咧？
我講一個例子俾大家知，港區國安法係宇宙大法，銀河系有效。既然係銀河系有效，即係太陽系都有效，咁即係呢個唔係一個有效嘅法律。冇一條法律係全宇宙有效嘅，只有上帝嗰啲先至最有效。所以呢啲係共產黨嘅用恐懼去嚇香港人。如果你頭先講個大前提成立，現在在參與嗰啲都犯咗國安法，咁點辦呢？咁我哋喺自由社會，我哋搞香港議會冇犯又冇法過，喺自由開放嘅世界，所以將來投票無論海內海外嘅香港人，你去權衡你自己，呢個係我哋嘅投票制度會盡我哋嘅技術上、資源上、我哋嘅智慧去得到嘅地方，我哋令到佢盡可能安全。但呢個世界冇100%安全，所以我哋啲電掣有跳掣、有 𝙜𝙬 掣嘅，到最尾搞唔掂都要跳掣嘅，保障大家唔好火燒屋。但係我哋唔會因為我哋仲未曾令到大家100%安全，就唔去諗香港議會。我哋唔投票都會捉啊！佢係任何機會都會捉你。我喺香港過去20幾年、30年寫啲文章、出嗰啲片，要捉，即係好似鄧小平講18條鞭子啊，任你捉啊！咁嘅情況之下咧，投票機制係我哋嘅責任，係令到投票者盡量覺得安全，或者係佢相信安全。我哋都係喺技術上而家仲喺度開發緊。咁啊呢方面咧，國安法係一個阻礙，但係唔會停止我哋追求自由嘅。現場媒體請發問。係呢個呢前面請你報。
係，你好，自由亞洲電台胡瑞南。我第一個問題係同對外認受性有關。因為頭先何良昕先生都有講到啦，即係呢個籌備委員會同即係世界各國嘅政府都冇關係。咁我想即係知道你哋點樣可以確保呢一個議會喺將來成立咗投完票之後，能夠受到世界各國政府嘅承認咧？如果你會覺得係民選就能夠獲得承認嘅話，你哋嘅目標係你覺得要有幾多嘅選民人數去選出嚟，先至會獲得呢個足夠嘅認受性咧？呢個係第一個問題。第二個問題就係關於頭先講到選民人數嘅問題啦。頭先都有傳媒朋友問到嘅，即係你希望主要係俾香港人去投票啦。咁但係當中嗰個投票。
So questioning is happening in Cantonese, and I thought I will kind of give you a backdrop to this. What has been happening in Hong Kong is that when the British left in 1997, one of the promises they extracted was that there will be 2 separate systems. In fact, I had been to Hong Kong about 20 years ago, 2001. In fact, 2 weeks after the 9/11 happened, a lot of security, a lot of fear about what was happening. But I had a trip to make to mainland China. I flew through Hong Kong. At that point of time, it took about 3.5 hours to go just a distance of about 50 miles into China. You had to drive from Hong Kong, from the airport to the Hong Kong border with China. Then you had to do immigration. You actually immigrated out of Hong Kong. And then you immigrated into China. So there was a customs exit. There was a customs entry, immigration entry. You got stamped, all that stuff. A long line of people wanting to get into China, and then you got into this town called Shenzhen, and then we had to go further 40, 50 miles inside to a city called Tangsha. This whole thing was so interesting because Hong Kong drives on the left side of the road and mainland China drives on the right side of the road. So if you had a bus ticket with a seat number, you got the same seat number in a bus on the other side of the immigration border, but it was it's like a mirror inversion, so you have to get used to that part of stuff. And I believe now a lot of that stuff has reduced because you can directly fly into Shenzhen, which was the first city inside mainland China once you leave Hong Kong. This fact that British had been occupying Hong Kong for hundreds of years, so most of Hong Kong reminds you of something like India because it's similar colonial system and so on and so forth. And you can see the contrast as soon as you get into China. Now, what has happened in these last 15, 20 years? I have not been there. Clearly, I don't have any business interest now in China or in Hong Kong. There was no need to travel. The interesting thing that I have noticed is that while all these frictions are going on, the Hong Kong dollar continues to be pegged with the US dollar. And this is, in my opinion, the Brahmastra. Once that becomes unpegged, a lot of the commerce inside China will be in a huge upheaval. Nobody recognizes the Chinese renminbi. Everybody recognizes only the Hong Kong dollar. And that is sort of like the last tool that can be used to pressure China into listening to the voices of Hong Kong. I don't know if this parliament, whenever it becomes seated, will take that as its first priority to do that. Certainly, we are hoping that something like that might happen. So let's go back and join the press conference.
嗰個係我哋嘅目標，我哋希望做到嗰個目標啊。咁就起碼要做到咩咧？譬如舊年係咪立法會選舉嗰個？
舊年2021年被完善，即係等於被閹割咗嘅。
即係嗰個有咗選舉法之後嗰個選舉咧，又 DQ 咗咁多人之後咧，嗰個咧就係好少人參加嘅，
得30%到，
得30%。咁我哋希望可以做到好過佢。咁就係呢個，但係基於一樣嘢就係安全問題。咁呢啲係功夫要做嘅呢啲，所以我哋成立咗呢個選委咧，就係做其中一個 committee 就做呢樣嘢嘅。
嗱，即係要國際政府或者係國際上嗰啲議會去支持香港人，特別而家呢個議會嘅機構咧，其實最簡單，亦都係 ABC， 就係投票率要高。參與率要高呢個就係叫做 mandate 啦。唔同地方嘅香港人都係萬眾一心去投票，呢個就俾到其他嘅現行嘅國際嘅國會也好、議會也好，或者佢哋啲議員咧，就睇到香港人嘅人心趨向咁2019年區議會選舉係一個指標啦。另一個反指標或者係逆指標就係2021年經完善等於被閹割之後嘅立法會選舉係一個逆指標，即係話你越係想完善，越係想操弄香港嘅選舉制度，香港人就越係唔接受你，結果得30%到，同區議會超過70%、80%幾嘅投票率，所以喺30%同80%。呢個就係我哋要爭取。當然有啲人跟住就問：你選民基礎點樣啊？咁呢個咧，我哋仲要研究下嗰個選民嘅資格人數係一個好大嘅工程嚟㗎。所以我哋需要好多國際專家參與嘅。好，有冇其他現場媒體嘅朋友？係請報上嚟。
𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙨𝘼𝙥𝙥, I am from Self-Media Liberate Hong Kong Square in Toronto. 光復香港廣場。As far as I know, besides this Hong Kong Parliament, there are at least 2 others of the same kind in the world. Can you talk about the Hong Kong Parliament currently under preparation and what's the difference from the other 2 Thank you.
同其他嘅同類產品。
Yes, I've heard about so-called overseas parliament and also about shadow parliament. We have not participated, but I can claim the difference is ours is going to be an elected parliament by Hong Kong people. And I heard there's a summit going on and they're trying to have somebody representing Hong Kong. But most of them are a kind of a meritocracy, meaning the elite get together and try to elect each other, which is very, very different from ours. Ours has to be grassroots. Hong Kong people would vote. Each person must vote. This is the difference. I had many discussions with other people. This is the major difference. They don't want to undertake the basic democracy, which is voting by the public. Thank you.
剛才袁先生回應香港議會同其他類似嘅概念或者係團體有咩分別？我簡述一下佢嘅中文重點，就係我哋一人一票選出嚟嘅。其他我哋睇唔到佢有呢個選舉嘅時間規劃、機制設計、投票監督嘅體系，而我哋呢個呢係草根民主，係全面，係真正實現主權在民。我哋係服膺人民自決 （self-determination）。
So you can be sure that the CCP, okay, the last question that was posed to Elmer was very interesting. A questionnaire said that there are two other bodies which claim that they are representing Hong Kong, and that how is it that this is different from that one? And Elmer said that this is a grassroots elected parliament. They are going to do a complete process of how elections, if they would have been held in Hong Kong, would be held. So this is the difference, key difference. But you can be sure that the Chinese Communist Party, after this incident, will start putting its own versions of the Hong Kong Parliament to try and confuse the issue, to make so that all these groups have to reconcile and see which is the true voice of the Hong Kong people. And that is the challenge for anyone who's trying to put together something like this. They need to be able to reach out to lawmakers in the West, in Australia, in India, and also the larger democracies, and show them the process and say, here is why we are the legitimate representatives of the people of Hong Kong. So a lot of interesting things will be happening down the pipeline. I just wanted to kind of give you and share you the thoughts on how a process like this happens. And then this is a very interesting thing because it's playing out in real time. We hope to be in touch with the Hong Kong Parliament and give you all the developments as they happen over the weeks and months to come. Now let's go back and rejoin the press
不義
conference.
嘅法律係不是法律，甚至係非法嘅。喺咁嘅情況之下，你仲要將現存體制要維持落去，喺上邊改良補嚟補去，咪即係幫反香港民主嘅力量繼續去將香港人做奴隸，呢個違反我哋信服嘅民主原則。好，現場仲有冇其他？好，
星島日報 WeChat 係第一個問題新嘅明年選嘅第一屆，譬如話議會咁個成員大概有幾多人？會唔會係用一個比例代表制？譬如話多倫多、Vancouver 或者加拿大應該有幾多個議席？美國有幾多個議席 ？something like that 咁樣樣。第二個問題就係嗰個新嘅香港議會成立之後，嗰個議題係點？即係出嚟表決咗嘅議案點樣可以落實去推行，或者係點樣去反映？係咪咁？你當然你推反啲現行機制，即係話你唔會將呢個意見交俾而家嘅特區政府去推行，咁樣係咪變咗喺度？但係好似整咗出嚟之後 ，just on the shelf， 即係個書，即係個架度冇喐過，即係都係 talk to talk but not walk to walk 嗰度啊。係唔該。
我講
你答。
就佢主要問乜嘢？
第一
好長啊，個問題好長，我就唔識
有幾多 elected members？
我哋呢個咧就我哋有一個 Rules and Regulation Committee 嘅，由佢哋決定嘅。但係即係大家都明白啦，係嘛？而家我哋既然唔喺香港，我哋就唔需要好似有嗰個本地行政嗰度啊，本地嘅問題就少咗好多。我睇肯定係而家香港90人啦，我哋肯定係90人以下嘅。咁最後咧由佢哋 committee 決定嘅，即係我唔到我哋決定，但係估計幾十人咧就係幾多十我就唔知啦啊！大家呢個都
唔係事先設計晒，
冇得事，
要討論，
即係適宜我哋香港，適宜我哋而家嘅做法，即係多數將來佢哋可以改嘅。咁呢個一件事，
即係冇分區制，係就全部都係 plain 嘅 MP。就唔會話呢個代表咩
分區嘅，咁因為咧，我哋全世界譬如有1000萬香港人啦，連埋香港連埋海外，差唔多1000萬度啦。咁佢選出嚟啫，唔分區嘅，就係因為而家有咗互聯網啊，方便到不得了，可以喺網上開會嘅。啊，好多會差唔多1年，如果象徵式啊，可以聚下食下飯啊。但係實際好多所謂會議嘅工作喺網上可以舉行嘅。啊，即係而家多數都係咁做啦，好多大公司裏邊啲董事會啊乜嘢都係咁樣做嘅，年會都係咁樣做，咁呢個就唔係大問題嚟嘅。我哋諗住咧就邊度早知票數邊個得到票數多，就係做當議員，唔係話分區嘅。一分區咧就變咗咧又亂咗龍噶啦。啊，最後你要民主就係票多票少嘅問題。唔該。
第二個部分咧，呢位記者朋友星島加拿大星島嗱，選出嚟嘅香港議會成員會唔會 all talk no action 咧？肯定唔會，因為我哋雖然唔在香港，係呢個係屬於喺海外嘅，係一個即係抗衡現在香港呢個政府，特別係2021年之後個立法會選舉，基本上係一個傀儡政權，所以嚴格嚟講咧，我哋係反對香港政府㗎，我哋都係反對中共㗎。喺咁嘅情況之下咧，我哋香港議會一定唔會交個建議俾阿李家超考慮，我哋同佢哋係勢不兩立㗎喎，有你冇我㗎喎。如果有你，咁我使咩搞香港議會咧？你都喺度啦，就因為你係剝奪咗我哋香港人嘅權利，而且跟住你就用一國兩制啲假招牌去行騙全世界。咁我哋係國王的新衣入邊嘅小孩，包括在座，包括全海外所有香港人都係國王新衣入邊嘅小孩，都睇到國王冇着衫。我哋要講清楚，國王冇着衫。咁我哋係咪反國王咧？唔係。我哋反對嘅講大話，我哋係講真話，講出真相。難道全世界香港人講出真相就有罪？咁呢個就係國安法嘅目的，講真相就有罪，暴露事實就係有罪，將真實嘅民意彰顯出嚟就有罪。如果咁係有罪咧，我哋係真係有罪，但係佢哋嘅定義嘅罪。但係喺全世界香港人嚟講咧，我哋做咗我哋應做嘅嘢。既然我係喺加拿大、喺美國、喺英國，我哋可以作為海外嘅香港人喺新嘅國度，可以一人一票投票選舉。點解我哋香港人反而永世都冇？而家睇嚟，如果我哋唔爭取，我哋自己永世都冇，我哋下一代都唔會有，下3代都唔會有。既然咁嘅情況之下，我哋唔去爭取，咁即係話，第一，我哋喺意識上已經變成咗奴隸，我哋冇反抗能力。第二，如果我哋係仲有反抗能力，點解唔做嘢？點解明知人哋將你為奴為婢，點解你對主子仲要恭恭敬敬就話請你裁事，請你
Okay, we have put our question in the queue, and because of the way this is set up, I cannot ask this question verbally. because we are going through intermediate box. So we can only ask it via chat mode, and we are waiting for our question to be answered. They're working through a whole bunch of questions. As you can see, most of the questions are being asked in Cantonese, and we're just waiting for our turn to be answered. And Sasha will be joining us once this press conference concludes, and then she will give us a summary of the kind of questions that were asked. So you will get the complete picture of where things are. Let's go back to the conference now, please.
冇晒人權，冇晒佢哋基本嘅人嘅選舉權咁簡單。其他現場記者係請講。
離地港台嘅 Titus 你好，係咁啊！我想問咧，就係你哋成個籌委會，你頭先講咗好多個籌委會啦，籌款啊，建立嗰個機制啊等各方面，我想問有啲乜嘢人係 involve 響呢一啲嘅籌委會入面咧？香港有冇一啲知名人士響呢一啲嘅籌委會入面咧？呢個係第一個問題。第二個問題咧就係我諗嗰個代表性亦都係一個問題啦，因為我諗其實實際上到時會投票嘅人，即係你講到話港區國安法唔係一個法例啦，我哋可以咩嘢？但係其實對於香港人嚟講，呢一樣嘢係的而且確係一個相當大嘅威脅。咁於是可以預期有唔少嘅香港人可能因為咁樣唔投票，嗰個代表性喺邊度咧？而一個唔具代表性又缺乏國際共識、公信力嘅香港議會會唔會引起呢個紛爭同分化咧？會響好多流散嘅港人陣腳未穩、居留身份未定、建構香港未來共識未建立之際，急於建呢一個大台咧。同埋我諗最重要，我諗其實就係話，當然選民需要登記。OK， 咁登記嘅時候，我當然要俾 personal information 你。咁我有乜嘢係令到我自己係放心？我交俾你，即係呢個係一個好實在嘅問題嚟嘅。老實講句，我交俾你，你唔會將佢交俾 someone else，let's say 即係黑客啊、中共政權啊等等咧。因為我信你，我先會俾呢一個嘅 information 你嘅。但係若果呢個會係，若果唔係一個選舉嘅話，呢個會係一個歷史上最龐大 gather 海外香港人 information 嘅一個 campaign 嚟嘅。你有乜嘢令到我哋可以相信你可以將呢個 information 交俾你咧？
好，你要答第一部分。
嗱，我就懂得答問題，不過你呢個差唔多係演講咁，使我記唔到咁多。簡單講，就我哋要有一套制度。佢用佢最少嘅資料，即係投票者啊，用最少嘅資料。咁我哋暫時咧就諗住係佢個名同埋佢嘅出生日期。咁呢個好少重複嘅，有好多幾十萬可能之分之一之出。咁呢樣嘢咧，而且係唔係我哋 handle 啊？我哋將來又有國際組織，經過國際。
I'm sure you've noticed that just like India, the British had occupied Hong Kong for hundreds of years, yet most people prefer to speak in their native tongue while asking questions. You'll see a sprinkling of English here and there, but the emphasis is on communicating with your mother tongue. Now ask yourself, as an Indian, how many times, in fact, this itself, I'm conducting this whole thing in English and not in one of the mother tongues of India. This is where things are a little different. India is truly a democracy. There is room for every voice, and there's also a way that you can express yourself. You don't have to agree to on to everything. You can agree to disagree in some point. That's the beauty of democracy. That's what the people of Hong Kong want, and you can see the passion with which some of the questions are being asked. You may not understand the language, but you can understand the passion behind the questions, and this is truly a breakthrough moment, because people have not been able to say anything. They out of fear being inside Hong Kong. In fact, questions are coming through from the people living still in Hong Kong. They are sort of stuck. Many of them would like to leave the country and come abroad, but their real estates are stuck. The way they can come out, the amount of money, a lot of restrictions imposed on them as China tries to preserve its foreign exchange. That should give you an idea that all's not well with CCP, that they have basically frittered away all their surplus that they had over the trade of the last 15-20 years, which is what Elmer has been telling us for a long time, that they really don't have much money. They have to keep exporting to get some foreign exchange. So this is the other problem. If people are wondering what happened in Sri Lanka, why did the Chinese stop? It's because they don't have the money. It's money is what makes everything go around. And I think that is one of the main reasons why China sort of dumped Sri Lanka. And who knows when the same fate will fall on Pakistan. So let's go back to the conference. I'm hoping that
你提
questions are
到
going.
呢位記者朋友提到，因為海外都未有共識，咁而家好似你自己整一個大台喺度自嗨喎。第一，我哋唔係大台，我哋係一個平台，我哋係一個選舉平台，我哋冇得做大台。最大嘅大台就係香港人，全世界嘅香港人就係我哋嘅大台。所以我哋好難得到其他現有嘅海外嘅組織參與，因為佢哋可能心中認住自己已經係一個台。我唔係講緊網台啊，我都好細嘅有啊，我講緊佢哋自己認住一個台。咁所以我哋覺得，我哋整一個平台，呢個平台我同阿袁公元冇份嘅。
Looks like
唔
they
係
have
私
been
人
muted.
企業，
We don't know what is going
亦
on
都
there.
唔係我哋頭先講咗，我哋要成立一間
our side
NGO 公司嘛，冇政府做後台，最大嘅後台就係香港人。香港人唔參與嘅話咧，我同袁公儀就可以日日揸車出去遊山玩水噶啦，唔使再搞落去噶啦。既然香港人都覺得呢個咁樣嘅參與香港事務、決定未來命運、人民自決、主權在民，香港人都唔受，都覺得麻煩，都覺得冇咩希望成功，咁我哋就悠遊林下。咁我哋真係，我哋都夠老噶啦，佢最老啦，當然老資格啦。我都夠呢個年紀可以同佢一齊輪流揸車穿州過省，你就唔係去做國際遊說，去做國際遊玩噶啦。我唔希望發生呢一日啊！我唔希望出現咁嘅情況，所以今日開呢一個國際傳媒嘅記者會，就係講俾全世界香港人知，如果你哋都覺得一人一票主權在民、人民自決都唔啱聽，都唔使去參與，都唔去落實，都唔去變成咗真正香港人嘅未來光復香港嘅基石，即係話煲底見原來係講咗就等於做咗啫，咁即係串報啦。咁即係話原來大家都係葉公好龍，講就係好 grand 嘅、好宏大嘅民主理想，到你執行、你去實踐民主時咧，我要入廁所，我唔得閒啦。如果咁樣就即係證明我哋睇錯咗一啲人嘅質素啦。咁即係我哋嘅眼鏡個度數唔係好啱，佢可能即係老花睇唔清楚。咁我唔希望咁樣發生，我希望咧全民參與，盡所能，因為最後機會㗎啦。如果我哋唔設計一個平台出嚟，將來共產黨或者係後中共時代嘅香港咧，係冇香港人份㗎啦，係會交俾另一個政權，後中共嘅政權去決定。咁又係跌入咗另一個，即係人哋買好菜、煮好飯、埋位啦、開飯啦、拉雙筷子就開飯啦。如果咁樣，咪即係以前玩咗25年嘅高度自治、港人治港，再嚟重複一次，不過變咗2.0啫。我哋覺得乜零都唔要，我哋要重新開始。今日食咩飯？未有菜譜喎，Elmer，大家一齊諗咧，菜譜都未有，菜都唔使自己買，呢冇菜譜我點買啊？跟住 邊有人煮啊？你都未買菜翻嚟，咁你煮完之後，邊個食啊？哎呀，搞錯對象，今日嗰班人出晒去，冇人食。咁即係話，而家要由頭開始，香港人要決定自己嘅政治菜譜，加買埋菜，要落手落腳。呢個係一個參與民主。如果咁樣嘅基礎，我哋講得咁明白，大家都覺得你講得啦嚇，袁公儀你做啦，我支持你去革命，你去革命，我自己就去享受。如果咁樣就變咗香港人咧，就唔係真誠嘅香港人，亦都唔係真香港人㗎啦。咁所以我哋呼籲唔好講咗等於做咗，真係要落手落腳。所以民主唔係我哋呢兩個人講完就係啊，在座以至有全世界香港人，你哋嘅參與，你哋嘅落力，甚至某個程度嘅貢獻，先至係真正香港未來煲底見，唔係咁易噶，唔係走翻去香港喺度影張相打下卡就係噶，嗰個煲係好重要嘅民主。
So we are trying to figure out if we can do a transcription live, and we don't know if Google Meet provides that. This is the actual press conference is being hosted on Google Meet. So we have to do some aerobatics to try and get that thing live with control on our side so that we can intervene as and when we want. So the sequence is that the questions are first being answered from those present in the press conference. And that is almost done. Now we are going to go to online questions. There are only one or two questions that I can see thus far. And after that, hopefully I can have Sasha Gong join this conference, this live hangout, and give us a quick rundown summary on what happened, because we don't understand the questions being posed. And then she will give us, let's hope that we can get to talk to Richard or to Elmer or both. Let's wait and see. So let's get back to the conference now. Hopefully, no, we still haven't got.
每一個人，你哋都自己有個區，你哋都可以投票。點解香港人唔可以？我就唔係嘅。我哋係咪二級公民咧？係咪二等人咧？唔係。我哋嘅文化係咪社會嘅經驗，同全世界冇一個先進國家比唔上。點解我哋冇權做呢樣嘢？所以我想問一問嗰啲唔支持我哋嗰啲人咁仲係要翻轉頭，好似我哋80年代開始幾個人傾掂佢咧，成個體制傾掂佢咧，嗰個所謂基本法根本就係唔啱我哋嘅，係適合中共嘅佢用嚟統治我哋嘅一個基本法嚟嘅。英國咧又係整個中英聯合聲明咧，基本上咧佢咧當然話就攞到我哋嘅主權，未得到我哋同意攞個主權交咗俾中國，主要係保護英資喺香港嘅利益，包括金人，呢啲全部係適合佢哋，唔係適合我哋嘅。我哋要一套我哋自己嘅制度，為我哋香港人量身定做嘅制度咁可以一代一代傳落去，唔係淨係選一屆譬如5年又好4年又好，一屆一屆咁傳落去，呢個係一個長遠嘅問題，唔係短期一次性嘅。唔該。
咁在場嘅記者有冇其他發問？好，let's start with online Q&A time. Please raise your hands if you have questions, and please introduce your organization at the beginning.
Okay, the first one is PGurus. Could you yourself and ask the question?
現在我哋係網上記者發問時間。現在我哋係安排緊網上嘅新聞行家咧，就係提出問題。現在係聯絡緊
Okay, if you have a question, please raise up your hand and unmute yourself and ask the question.
因為啲技術咧，我哋要聯繫上一啲國際媒體佢
Okay,
哋
there is someone in the
好
chat. I would like to apologize that I don't have access to a mic, so it would be great if you can ask this question to Victor and Elmer. Will the Hong Kong Parliament only focus on pursuing universal suffrage in the future, or will it also focus on other aspects of the city, such as social welfare or education? What kind of candidates is the committee looking for to represent Hong Kongers? In the future, how will the committee verify who are the real Hong Kongers? And how many of the representatives will be elected in the future? Thank you.
This is a press conference for the organizing committee, electoral organizing committee. We are not the Hong Kong Parliament at all. This is the first step. Through an election, a fair and a safe election, we will be able to elect our parliamentarians, and they will decide the future of Hong Kong. And we are just building the platform, which is not easy because we have a CCP trying to do everything to overthrow the platform. So this is nothing to do with the elected body, which will be called the Hong Kong Parliament. First, they will start drafting the constitution, and then later on, they decide what to do, not us. We are just the committee for preparing for the election. So the final parliamentarian elected will decide what to do for the future of Hong Kong. Thank you.
頭先一位國際記者朋友問，香港議會會唔會解釋做埋其他事務？剛才袁先生就答覆英文就話，我哋係一個議會嘅籌備委員會，我哋不是議會本身，我哋冇任何民選成分嘅，我哋即係倡議者、和議者、工作者、籌備者。咁將來呢個議會長遠係點樣為香港人嘅 well-being 係由議會去決定。有冇其他國際傳媒有啲問題提問
Dan Han, please unmute yourself, say your media name and ask the question, please.
Yes, VOA China branch. 请袁先生用普通话说一下好吗？
可以，
香港议会选举，你们这个程序如何保护这个香港人，尤其是在香港这个港人在国安法那个威胁之下，他们能够如何安全的投票？因为中共的这个国安法不仅可以针对香港的港人，也可以他们声称可以就是把法伸到海外去长臂管辖这个海外的香港人，就是你如何保护这个香港人防范这个中共对你们这个选举程序的这个破坏，你有没有如何防范？
好，谢谢。这个是 VOA 这个美国之音这个记者问袁先生用英文用普通话先回答。
谢谢。那个共产党肯定会破坏我们这个选举因为共产党最怕的就是人民组织起来。所以我们有准备，在安全一方面有准备，好像今天的记者也是，我们观众里边也做了保安的准备这个肯定要做的。那个将来他会用不同的手段来破坏我们这个选举，甚至香港议会成立了之后，他们也会破坏。那么大家都知道，这个要自由要付出代价，我们就是需要付出代价。如果怕的话，就好像今天在大陆13亿也好，11人口也好，就每天就是给他割韭菜。谢谢。
好，对我补充一句，就是怎么保障这个投票的香港人这个安全。我们刚才也就提到，我们要设计一套安全这个在这个互联网上或者在电子投票以后不容易给有关政权去追踪去追杀这些投票人这个选举这个机器或者一个机器 啊，这个是我们现在筹备委员会要努力的方向啊。当然没可能100%能够保证安全，相对的安全我们还是要考虑。现在我们这个筹委会啊，没有全面有一套这个方案，我们会开发这个高科技方面这个一些技术上的可能性啊。这个您刚才提到国安法，不光对香港人这个头顶上一把这个大刀，也是对所有在海外的香港人，对所有离散的香港人都是一个，你就刚才讲的很对了，是常被管辖，这个是国际上是非法的。这个你香港要法律在人家这个 jurisdiction 来执行，你除非好像肖建华一样在香港绑架，这个是土匪的行为啊。如果中共居然用国安法做成这样的一个效果，那就是让中共暴露他的原来面目，就是土匪，就是强盗。所以我们相信中共要知道自己的怎样做的效果、后果，还有他怎样做，肯定是这个政权是不能够再存在下去的。好，谢谢这个记者提问。Any other questions from online journalists? Please go ahead.
Srilia, please unmute yourself and ask your questions, please.
Go ahead, please.
My name is Sri Iyer, and I'm a member of the United States Press. And this question is for both you gentlemen. Now, as part of the press conference, you mentioned that in 2019 elections, about 71% of Hong Kongers voted. When you have elections set through this process, do you expect to achieve similar numbers?
Good.
Sorry, yes. We do have a huge percentage in 2019 for district board election. And since nobody took it very seriously, both the communists and Hong Kong pan-democrats, so nobody really interfered with it. What resulted was a free election and a very genuine, no interference. And that's why we got that result. Our problem now for next year's election, we're going to schedule something next year, is security. Because there's no question the communists will threaten that you are breaking the national security law and you won't be able to return to Hong Kong anymore, or you won't be able to leave Hong Kong anymore. So that would be the threat. So we are going to devise a system that it's not traceable. The vote is not traceable back to the voter, so that they cannot identify who voted. So this is a system, this is the whole key to this election. If we are able to use such a system, then the Hong Kong people will feel secure enough to have a high percentage turnout. So this is what we're working on. And we really don't know. You need to work on it.
Thank you very much, Elmer. Of all the political systems, democracy is the least flawed. And I wish the people of Hong Kong all the best. And this is something that is must. And let's hope that you succeed in your endeavor in a stunning fashion. Thanks for taking my question.
Thank you very much. 剛才美國嘅同業咧，都提出問題，即係網上安全嘅問題啦。咁都係大家在座，無論記者朋友或者係我哋嘅即係本地嘅社區嘅朋友，都係關心。咁國安大法當然係擺在眼前。但係我哋唔參與香港議會嘅投票，國安大法都喺度嘅。所以國安法咧唔應該成為我哋一個絆腳石。係應該促進我哋去表達我哋嘅民意嘅動力先啱，就係因為冇民主，國安法先至從天而降，橫空出世，直接好似塊晶片咁植入香港嘅政治系統，冇經過立法會授權，冇經過立法會討論，呢個係徹 徹底嘅暴政。呢種暴政係香港人未見過嘅，而家係身受其害，就因為冇民主、冇監察、冇制衡，亦都冇機會去推翻佢。既然香港人做唔到喺香港本土，我哋海外人咧就有一份道義嘅責任。我哋喺自由世界、開放嘅社會，我哋都唔講我哋相信嘅價值，我哋都唔去實踐我哋相信嘅普世原則。自由、民主、人權、法治、平等，我哋都喺度享受，或者係身在其中，視為空嘅一部分。但我哋唔去為我哋嘅香港真香港人去做一啲即係揼磚揼石嘅事，咁我哋就真係旁觀者，我哋真係圍觀者。咁我哋香港人，我哋仲有冇一種尊嚴？對住以後嘅香港人講，我係香港人呢？如果我係香港人呢，就係你有冇份將你享受嘅自由、民主、人權、法治，都令到更多香港人都享受到，唔係你獨善其身。我相信海外嘅香港人呢，係唔係中意獨善其身，好味嘅大家一齊分享，唔好味嘅大家講出嚟。抌咗佢，如果唔抌咗佢，咁我哋咪同暴政一樣，我咪變咗暴政嘅同路人。咁我哋係做唔到啊！我哋真唔可以話自己支持暴政，然後跟住咧就將石頭掟翻自己香港嘅朋友度。你唔參與，你唔去改咧，你等於變相將啲石頭掟翻落你自己曾經同你喺香港一齊去食個雲吞麵，一齊去踎個大排檔。然後跟住咧，擰轉背咧，你就掟一啲政治嘅石頭砸死佢，唔係香港人嘅本色。我哋香港人咧係有擔當嘅，我哋係講到話煲底見咧，唔係網上嘅煲底見，係真實嘅煲底見。點做到啊？大前提當然要後中共時代啦。如果中共仲喺度咧，大家就牢底見嘅啦，喺監獄見嘅啦。咁我哋要避免監獄見咧，就要打破高牆，要建立我哋嘅民權。香港議會係民權嘅伸張，係觀念嘅突破，係主權嘅體現，唔係喺個政府度嘅主權，唔係喺個政權嗰度啊，係每一個有選票嘅香港人手上。如果我哋海外香港人發起呢個香港議會咧，唔係為海外咁緊啦，係為全香港。係天方夜譚嘅。我初初聽到啊袁弓夷呢個意念，好似科幻小說倪匡嗰啲咁啊。哇！香港議會好似寫小說得，但係諗下諗下，係你唔做就永遠都係科幻小說，就去做，做幾多得幾多，唔做永遠係零，做咧就可以變成一。有一就有二，有二就有無限啦。但唔做永遠都係零，個零都係無限，不過無限零啫，即係變咗清零。我哋2019年講俾我哋知，我同袁弓夷先生同一樣嘅信念，後生仔跑過我哋前好多啊！我哋好慚愧，佢哋抌咗條命，我哋咧就喺海外去吶喊，吶喊完點咧？係啊，好多烈士，好多靈魂喺個空間啊！但係我哋點咧？佢70幾歲，我60幾歲，我哋已經無所求噶啦。唯一就係每一個係香港人都要做嘢。我哋喺度講嘢啫，但係你跟住你哋做嘢啊！全世界香港人做嘢啊！你哋手上嗰票唔做嘢咧，就永遠都係共產黨做嘢，或者係專政嘅人。
Viewers, this press conference is going to go on for some more time, and I understand that many of you don't understand Cantonese. So we are going to log off of this press conference now, and we will have a separate session, hopefully with Sasha Gong, who is covering the event live there. as well as perhaps one or two of the speakers of today's session. So we'll keep you posted. We'll send you, as always, a Twitter message and also on YouTube when that session comes live. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And as always, please click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.